Hi everybody, welcome to our presentation of ethics in financial markets. We took the financial markets as a case study for this assignment. Short outline, we'll start with some assumptions, then we'll discuss the utilitarian approach, then we'll discuss the difference with the other approaches, and we'll conclude with some pros and cons of the utilitarian approach. Some assumptions we made when developing a measure to regulate high-frequency trading in financial markets is that it's a general regulation standard for high-frequency trading that applies to everybody. And a assumption we made is that high-frequency trading can lead to the exploitation of slower traders, and that the majority of traders does not use high-frequency trading and therefore is such a slower trader that runs the risk of being exploited.
So we developed an utilitarian approach to like a kind of regulation to increase the utility of most of our traders. We based this on a strategy used by the Investors Exchange, and there are a couple of rules. The main rules we adapted are offering a limited number of simple and familiar order types. Furthermore, ensuring market pricing data arrives at external points of presence simultaneously. And the most important strategy is using a slightly delay of the market pricing data, which allows the traders to receive the data at similar times. So with this approach, we achieved the following goals. We increased the pleasure of the majority of the normal traders. They are no longer exploited by the high-frequency traders. This is at a cost, though. High-frequency traders will have reduced utility because they're no longer able to exploit and gain from exploiting the normal traders. Furthermore, our regulation might cause a slight decrease in efficiency. However, we believe this approach will increase the utility, the pleasure of the larger group of normal traders, which is a lot higher than the reduced utility of a small group of high-frequency traders.
Right, now discuss the ontological part. The ontological ethics focus on whether or not the action people are pursuing is right, and does not focus on the consequences or the consequence on utility, as does the utilitarian approach. Whether or not the actions are wrong or right are based on universal laws, like the ones Immanuel Kant developed. A pro of this method is that it allows people to pursue their own projects based on the universal laws, rather than constantly have to think about whether or not an action increases or decreases the utility for others. And the con is that it therefore may be justifiable, an action may be justifiable while it makes the world worse off. If we look at our case, the deontologic approach would most likely not agree with regulation because it would imply that the market makers or the exchanges are temporarily blocking the trade orders, which is not in line with universal laws. So in conclusion, it would block this new regulation, while it would increase total utility for society as a whole.
There are also several differences with respect to the virtue ethics approach. Virtue ethics sees virtue as taking the middle ground between two opposite extremes. In this case, that could be the absence of regulation, which would lead to some exploitation of traders, and strict regulations, which would lead to some efficiency. An approach from this framework would probably also disagree with the proposed regulation, because the regulation we chose decides to take only one of these extremes and not the middle ground between both.
I'll briefly talk about the strengths of utilitarianism. And first, it provides clear and easy to understand guidelines. And second, it focuses on happiness and benefits. And then it helps with tough choices.
One of the weaknesses of utilitarianism is that pleasure cannot be measured. It is impossible to compare the pleasure of getting a new job with the joy of eating a chocolate bar. Another issue is that there is integrity objection, in which that the utilitarian approach requires us to violate our deeply held principles, thus losing a sense of what is truly valuable in life. The third weaknesses of the approach is that our judgments of actions are based on future outcomes, and it is impossible to make an accurate judgment as prediction of consequences is difficult to determine. Another issue with this approach is justice. How should pleasure be distributed? This approach does not define how pleasure should be distributed and ensures that most people receive pleasure, but it does not guarantee for the minority. And many would find this unfair. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.